Turning back to what is now day 4 of the war with Iran, and the scope of this conflict is growing by the day. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes in at least 11 countries. The State Department is urging Americans in countries around the region to get out if they can. Among Iran's targets abroad are some U.S. embassies, including in the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last night that while he believes ground forces will not be necessary, the toughest fighting may be yet to come.
We believe the objective that we have set for this mission, which is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities, both launch capability and manufacturing, can be achieved without ground forces. Right now, we're not postured for ground forces, but obviously the president has those options. He's never going to rule out anything. The hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
All right, let's get straight to CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman, who's joining us live from Tel Aviv this morning. So, Matt, bring us up to speed on these latest attacks, both inside Iran and the retaliatory strikes that we've been seeing, not just Israel, but across the region.
I think what we're seeing, Vlad, is this war expanding. Just a few moments ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that there are Israeli troops already inside Lebanon. Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy there, had fired rockets into Israel and drones at Cyprus, a British base there. They're now involved. Obviously, those strikes in Iran continue from U.S. aircraft carriers firing Tomahawks, sending planes, and also warplanes flying from Israel, which is about 1,000 miles away from Iran. We understand also that they have now attacked a nuclear site in Iran, the IAEA, confirming that for the first time, also attacking a police station. It seems that they are selectively picking off targets. One of the main targets continues to be missile launchers, because you can have thousands and thousands of missiles, but you can't fire them unless you have the launcher. So the U.S. and Israel have been targeting those mobile missile launchers. I'm told that by the end of the week, they should have destroyed about 70% of them, severely limiting Iran's capacity to fire those missiles. The ones that remain are going to be harder to reach, though. They're going to be underground, subterranean. That is going to be a challenge. And, of course, those attacks from Iran continue across the region. We had a number of sirens today, missiles falling here. And one of the biggest concerns is now missiles with multiple warheads that are spreading out before they can be knocked out of the sky by those defense missiles. And that is causing some damage here, but nothing significant, at least today, Vlad.
And Matt, we talked a lot in the last hour about mixed messaging, about what the motivations are, what the objectives are here. What are you hearing about what the actual objectives here are?
We don't exactly know what the end game is, and I think that that is a problem for the allies that are working this, and I'm specifically talking about U.S. and Israeli military planners, because when you don't know what aim you want to achieve, it's hard to plan what to target and how to target it. They also don't know the timetable. So there are two very significant components that are missing, that timetable and the ultimate goal, and that is complicating this war. There seems to be a desire, at least on the Israeli part, to accelerate whatever attacks they can, but there's the tyranny of time and space. It takes 90 minutes each way to go from here to Tehran. That's a long flight in an F-15 or an F-35. So they have to be pretty selective. There are also cracks in the Gulf states and others who are now involved in this. The Gulf states have sustained an enormous amount of missile fire. And we're talking about missiles. We're talking about something that was as long as a bus, that weighs several tons, that can have a warhead of 1,000 pounds. And they have caused significant damage in those Gulf states, which have never had to sustain anything like this. And what I'm hearing is that they are behind closed doors asking President Trump to halt, or at least bring this campaign to a close. So there's lots of pressure on the U.S. from multiple sides right now.
Matt, before you go, I watched Tony DeCopo last night anchoring the evening news from Tel Aviv as well, and he pointed out the fact that this all really began, if you really want to pinpoint the origins of when this conflict began. It began on November 4th, 1979, during the Iranian Revolution. And during the entire time that this theocracy has existed, it is called for the death of Israelis. It is called for the death of American citizens here and abroad. And I wonder how ordinary Israelis are feeling this morning in the wake of day 4 of this conflict, given the horrors and the tragedies that occurred with what was happening in Gaza so soon after that, to find themselves once again on the receiving end of ballistic missiles being sent across the country.
I think there's a very different sentiment here in Israel, Vlad, than there is in the U.S. Israel has been under direct threat from Iran pretty much since the 80s. There have been Hezbollah attacks year after year for decades now against Israel, and Hezbollah is backed, funded, armed by Iran. So there's a sentiment here that maybe, just maybe, this could be, to use the quote about the First World War, which didn't work out that way, that war to end all wars. They hope that this will be the last gasp of Iran, and then maybe they can live in the region in peace. That's the hope here. So I wouldn't say they're exactly happy about it, but there is a greater willingness to sustain these kinds of barrages. And the entire country has been closed down. There are very, very few restaurants that are open. There's almost no traffic. Schools are shut down through March 12th. Businesses are closed. It's going to cause significant damage to the economy. But I give you a sense and a barometer of how people do feel. The stock market here in Israel has been soaring over the past couple of days, doing very well because people think, well, maybe this will, in fact, topple that Iranian regime, which has been such a thorn in Israel's side and the region for so many years.
I love that juxtaposition because, as you said, that the sentiment in Israel will be very different from the one here. The stock market here is down 1,000 points and soaring in Israel. Matt Gutman reporting from Tel Aviv. My friend, thank you very much. Stay safe out there.